Hello everyone, FPL Raptor here and welcome back to another video on my YouTube channel. In today's video we have my Game Week 4 deadline decisions, where I'll be rounding up the latest injury news, discussing captaincy, replacements for Ismaila Sarr and much more. If you do enjoy today's video, please do smash that like button, and if you're new around here, make sure to subscribe as well. But without further ado, let's jump into it. So guys, as always, we will start with the press conference and injury updates as of Friday afternoon. And I'm struggling to remember a Friday from recent memory where we have had so much injury information, some of which was unexpected. So let's just jump straight into it. If the text is a little bit small, I do apologise. I like to just get it all on one graphic. So let's start with Chelsea, and there's updates around a lot of players, not just Cole Palmer. But let's start with Cole Palmer. Maresca said that yesterday, which would have been Thursday, was the first time that he would train, and that he will train later again today. So Friday afternoon, he's expected to train. So that means he'll get 2 training sessions in before the weekend. I think that probably means that Palmer could feature in some regard. Maresca isn't really the sort of manager, especially with some of the important games they've got coming up, that would just chuck Palmer straight back in. So I reckon my initial instinct here is that he probably doesn't start, might come off the bench, but I think there's also a chance he doesn't feature at all. He then did go on to say, we need to think to manage a little bit him because of the amount of games. So yeah, I think my instinct now is probably somewhere between 20 minutes and 0. And I would probably just about lean on the 0-minute side. That's just my interpretation. Let me know down below if you disagree. I think I would be surprised if we go straight back into the starting 11, although we know that generally Palmer's fitness and injury record is pretty good. On other players that have sort of had an injury update, it sounds like Liam Delap will be sidelined for 10 to 12 weeks. So that would mean that João Pedro's minutes, you would imagine, would be very good. That being said, Maresca has just sown a little bit of doubt in our minds around the players that were obviously playing in South America in the international break. So he said the 3 Brazilian players, of which would be João Pedro, Estevão and Andre Santos, they arrived yesterday but didn't train. So the players for Brazil, João Pedro most importantly, did not train on Thursday, and their first training session then would be on Friday. So he continued to say, obviously Caicedo apparently arrived even later, for all of them, it is a question mark for tomorrow. When they play in Bolivia, it's difficult. Hopefully they can be back soon. Up to the point of where he said it's difficult, I was like, yeah, you still probably expect these players to start though. They're professional footballers, as much as there would be a little bit of jet lag, in fact, quite a bit of jet lag. And we know that a lot of these players do sometimes struggle post-international break when they have to go to South America. You'd imagine it's fine. But that hopefully they can be back soon just didn't sound great. Now, I don't want to scaremonger. I think there is a very good chance João Pedro still starts the game. But do I think that regardless, it sounds like his minutes will be reduced? Absolutely. So João Pedro's expected minutes has probably gone down from, I would put him normally at about 80 to 85, probably down to around 60 to 65. And there is a chance that he doesn't start. I think given that Cole Palmer probably isn't fit enough to start, and given that Liam Delap is confirmed out, I think that helps João Pedro, because at the end of the day, they need to play some players, and it looks like it's getting to a point where if they don't play João Pedro, they don't play Estevão, they don't play Caicedo, they're not really going to have a team. So I think João Pedro starts, but I do think he gets an early sub, probably somewhere around the 65th minute. This does mean there is a chance that Mark Guiu gets better minutes than expected. If João Pedro doesn't start, and Palmer doesn't start, and Delap's out, there is a world where Guiu starts, by the way, but I still think it's probably João Pedro starts, Guiu will come on around the 65th, 70th minute. That's probably my thought process right now. What does that mean? Would I still be happy buying João Pedro? Would I still include him on a wildcard? Yes, yes, and yes. I probably wouldn't captain him, though, because I think there are enough other good captaincy options this week that having his minutes reduced in my mind as much as they have been, I would just lean elsewhere. But yeah, I think João Pedro is probably okay, but he's certainly at least more of a doubt than he was going into the game week. Moving on to Newcastle, Eddie Howe said that Wissa has picked up an injury. He said, it's a knee injury, but I don't know any more than that. We only saw him for the first time yesterday. He then went on to say some really good things about Walter Marde. I think that's how you pronounce it. He said that they need to be patient with him, but the feeling is that he's ready to go. And again, there were some really nice quotes in and around how they might use him. They don't want to just use him as a target man. He could become a serious option. Would I want to go and buy him now or include him on a wildcard? No, I wouldn't, because I need to see that Eddie Howe does put him in the 11 and get a bit more information around how he'll fit into that team. If I was on a free hit there would be some temptation because Waldemade is in a position, he's not like Wissa, it's not like he's not had a pre-season and he's not been training. He should physically be ready to go into that team. And without Anthony Gordon there, you'd imagine there's a chance that he does. So yeah, someone to keep an eye on in terms of transfers. On a free hit, there is some temptation, but there are also enough other, I'm really struggling to say that today, there are enough other really decent forwards that you can go for instead. On Alexander Isak, Slot basically confirmed that he's probably not going to start. He said he missed a proper pre-season, so now we have to build him up gradually. Again, he only got 20 minutes in the international break. I can't imagine there's a world where where Isak gets significant minutes against Burnley. The big bit of news from the international break was actually Ola Aina is set to miss now 3 months with a hamstring issue. Obviously, Zinchenko is also unable to face his parent club in Gameweek 4 in Arsenal. So what this means is Williams is very, very nailed on at the moment. Unless there's a setup where they try and play a different system, Zinchenko at left back, and they go for someone else at right back, it does very much feel like Nico Williams' minutes will be super secure now. Which I think if you own him and you wanted to keep him, that's a positive thing. I do also think that you could look to move on your Forest defenders. As we spoke about earlier on in the week, Ange Postecoglou joining probably will make them a slightly, or if not a significantly weaker defence. So much stuff to still cover. Fulkrug apparently picked up a slight issue with his calf in the international break. Apparently he is trained lightly on Friday, and they need to see how he'll react. No, actually that was on Thursday. So he might get a couple of training sessions in. I still think there's a chance Fulkrug features. In all honesty, unless you are down to your bare bones and your team is in an absolute state, you probably shouldn't be relying upon or expecting too much from Fulkrug regardless. So yeah, if you were looking to sell him, maybe this is your reason, but there is still a chance that he features. Marmoush is apparently set to be out for a few weeks, and Ryan Shirky is out until November. The reason I bring that up, if Phil Foden isn't ready to start this game, and I don't think we had a specific update around Foden, there is a chance Reinders starts in an advanced role. Tajani Reinders in an advanced role against Manchester United, who have arguably one of the weakest midfields in terms of the structure set up and defensively in the Premier League. That is such a good matchup for him. I often think that sometimes we overlook the idea of a matchup. We sometimes just focus on, is the team good or bad that they're playing against? But in terms of his specific matchup in that midfield, I think Tajani Reinders could absolutely dominate the likes of Bruno Fernandes and Casemiro. So yeah, I think Tajani Reinders is a really nice pick this week. If you were looking at benching him, maybe think about how you can get him back into the starting 11. Strand Larsen, apparently the injury is more serious than they first thought. He is ruled out for Gameweek 4 and potentially beyond that. It's a real shame because I was looking at maybe bringing Strand Larsen in because the fixtures for Wolves look fantastic. We think he's probably on penalties. There's a lot to like about Strand Larsen, even though Wolves haven't looked great. But yeah, this Achilles injury is a genuinely serious injury. So I would imagine that he's out for at least Gameweek 4, Gameweek 5. So if you have Strand Larsen, you can't rely on him, then I would probably look to sell him. Glasner confirmed that Ismail Sarr is injured as per the reports, and he hopes that he'll be back for Gameweek 6. He did say there was a chance, I think Wharton and someone else might be back for Gameweek 5. He didn't put Sarr in that same category. So for me, I would say Gameweek 6 or Gameweek 7 is when you're looking at getting Sarr back, which means that you missed the Sunderland game and you missed the West Ham game, then he's potentially back for Liverpool. Now, if you're free hitting in 6, then you might get him back from 7 onwards. Maybe you can keep him. I don't see any reason, need, or desire to keep Ismail Sarr, considering that the best 2 fixtures are the 2 that he's going to miss. So I think Sarr is absolutely a sell. Obviously, if you have other transfers that are more important, or you want to make money in the defence and play a 4 at the back or something like that, you could do so. I will just get rid of Ismail Sarr now, and we'll discuss, again, some replacements a little bit later. The most surprising news was that Iliman Ndiaye is apparently a concern with a knock. So this is just before I went to start sort of recording this and setting this up. Moyes just offered this information. I think the journalist said something along the lines of, are there any other injuries or other issues? And he said, yes, Iliman is a concern with a knock, and he said he's unsure if he'll be able to feature in Gameweek 4 as a result. I think this would put me off buying him this week. He did say a knock, and he did say he's unsure, so it doesn't sound like it's long-term. So if I was on a wild card, I'd still be tempted to maybe include him. On a free hit, I absolutely wouldn't. If I owned him, I wouldn't sell him. But yeah, this probably does put me off using a transfer to bring him in this week. You can just assess what happens beyond that, because then going into the Liverpool game, you could just maybe wait until sort of Gameweek 6, Gameweek 7 onwards. I think that's it. But yeah, there's loads of updates that we don't normally always get on a Friday. Sometimes there's barely any information. So if I've missed anything, let me know down below. Oh, Saliba, by the way, might be available. That was the only other one thing that I couldn't fit on the graphic. So yeah, that's the press and injury updates. let's move on to some other information. So guys, I thought a nice place to start in this video is to just take a quick look at the market odds for Game Week 4 in terms of the projected goals and clean sheet odds. This is courtesy of Rob T FPL, these fantastic graphics that he does. I will just note this graphic is from 3 days ago. I just went and actually looked at the market odds myself because it's nice to present it in this graphic that Rob does. But I went and looked. They've not really changed too much over the past few days. We're talking about like 1 or 2% in terms of clean sheet chances for a couple of teams and less than sort of 0.1 or 0.2 in terms of projected goals. So nothing much has drastically changed over the past few days. What stands out to me here? Immediately, I don't have any Arsenal players, and they have a very good chance for a clean sheet. In fact, as of right now, they have the greatest chance for a clean sheet in Game Week 4 according to the markets, and they're also projected to get the second most goals as well. I definitely think on a free hit, it makes sense to have an Arsenal defender, at least one, and probably have Gyökeres as well. It means that Gyökeres is a good captaincy shout, not just because of this, but Postecoglou taking over. Obviously, he's on penalties. He's the number 9. He's the one that will score the goals, and I could see this being 2-3, 4-0. For Arsenal. Now, I don't want to disrespect Nottingham Forest and even Ange Postecoglou too much, and there could be a bit of a new manager bounce. So I don't think you need to panic if you don't have any Arsenal assets, but I certainly think if there is a world in which it's easy to get one in, and again, or you're on a free hit, I certainly would look at this as one of the fixtures to target. Obviously, in terms of goals, the fixture to target is probably Liverpool-Burnley, but you can see it's not that far ahead of the likes of Arsenal, Newcastle, and even Manchester City. So if you don't have Mohamed Salah and you're like, I don't really want a free hit, I don't really want to go out there and buy him, you could absolutely just go and captain Haaland, Gyökeres, or someone like that, or even another Liverpool attacker. This doesn't there are weeks sometimes when a team's projected to get 3+ goals. Burnley are not a terrible defence. It is away for Liverpool. It's after an international break. There are enough reasons, and also Salah hasn't looked that fantastic recently. I'm not saying that Salah he is the best captain. We'll discuss captaincy later for me, and I'm very happy to have him. But I guess what I'm saying is I'm getting a few questions in and around, I just don't really want a free hit this week. It would just be to bring Salah in. I've got Haaland. What do you think? Captain Haaland, go without Salah and just hope you get lucky. It's as simple as that. In a single week, anything can happen. We've seen players blank in fixtures like this before. So, yeah, definitely a fixture to target. But if you don't have Salah, I wouldn't be... There are certainly times in the past where I would have been more worried than I would be this week. One of the fixtures I think is going the most under the radar, potentially even on free hit, but also in terms of just transfers as well. Newcastle have been highly impressive so far this season, especially defensively. So far this season, Newcastle have comfortably the best expected goals conceded. They've been the best defence. And bear in mind, they haven't had the easiest set of fixtures. 10 men against Liverpool springs to mind. So, yeah, really good defensive data. And Wolves so far this season have been the worst attack in the Premier League. And they're going to be without Strand Larsen. If I was looking at my free hit, I could even justify a double up on the Newcastle defence. But I certainly think one of sort of a Pope, Livramento, Burn, Share, someone like that, I think is really nice to include. So, yeah, one of the fixtures that is probably going the most under the radar, look at Newcastle. And in general, I wouldn't mind going out there and bringing in a Newcastle defender with the transfer. In my own team, I've been saying it's Munoz or no one, but I look at this and I think, actually, a Livramento wouldn't be a bad shout. What I find most interesting about the Crystal Palace market odds, Crystal Palace have really good projections in terms of a clean sheet. 43% is right up there alongside Arsenal, Newcastle, and Liverpool, but you can see their projected goals is down at 1.69. That's for 2 reasons. Ismaila Sarr out, they've lost Eberechi Eze and obviously Elise the year before that as well. Their attack is looking a little bit threadbare, and also Sunderland are 4th so far this season for expected goals conceded. They are defending pretty well. I kind of do back what this says here in terms of I could see this being 1-0, 2-0, 2-1. I think Palace will win this, and I don't think Sunderland will score many, but I also maybe don't see Palace scoring as many. Now, I don't think that makes Mateta a bad option, because if Palace score 1, I would bet a reasonable amount of money that would be Mateta that scores it. Because again, unless it's a defender scoring or just a random long shot, there aren't many other players that you could see starting right now that would be scoring tons of goals. So I feel like Mateta will have a very high percentage share of the goals. So even if they only score 2, I don't think Mateta's a bad shout. Hopefully that makes sense, but I find that interesting that their projected goals are quite low. And then, yeah, maybe the Man City game is worth pointing out. A low chance for a clean sheet, but much more likely to score goals. So Man City, I think, again, you're not targeting the defenders as much. You're targeting the likes of Erling Haaland. And as I said, I can see Tijani Reinders doing well. There are quite a few games here which are quite close. Like Everton-Villa, that is shocking to me. That really is shocking. Not that I don't want to disrespect Everton, but I have to say in my heart, Villa would be favourites in this game, but the markets don't say that. Maybe it's because it's away. Maybe it's because of their start to the season. Aston Villa are only projected to get 1.2 goals in that game, which is crazy. Like a lower percentage chance for clean sheet as well. So maybe offloading your Villa assets isn't the worst idea. But again, moving forward after this, the fixtures do start to improve. That Bournemouth-Brighton game, I could see there being goals, and I find it very difficult to guess which way. So I think I've covered most of it there. I should give a shout out to Chelsea, by the way. 1.81 projected goals as well. A decent chance for a clean sheet. They always feel like good assets to invest in. So yeah, hopefully that sort of sets the basis, provides the context. Let's now discuss a little bit about captaincy. So guys, I'm delighted to say that as part of this video, I'm actually doing a giveaway for a Premier League jersey to one of you watching of your choice, and it's very easy to enter. All you need to do is download Club, which is a free-to-play fantasy football mobile game. I've spoken about it quite a lot in previous videos. I'm a shareholder within the company that created Club, and I'm also in the game as a character as well. So all you need to do is download Club and join my league. For those of you that have already done those two things, you are automatically entered, and one of you will be winning a Premier League jersey of choice. On your screen right now, you can see my team ahead of Gameweek 4. It's basically fantasy football crossed with sort of club ownership. So you own a club, you build your team up, and each week you compete in head-to-head fantasy football. My team looks very good. I've got Salah on loan for this week, along with the likes of JOãO Pedro, Alanga, Morgan Rogers. Hopefully this is the week at least for Club that he finally does something. And the defence is looking very strong as well. What I'm going to actually do is meet with Manny, which is the way that you get players and improve your club. All I'd like you to do, in your head, I do this every time I meet with Manny, is guess which Premier League player Manny will get me. So this can be any player in the Premier League of any level, whether they start or not. I am going to go for Adam Wharton. I always guess Crystal Palace players, I don't know why, but let's see what I get. So tap to reveal, the rarity will come up, the rating. So it's core. Oh, it's a core. That's a terrible. It's not going to be a good player. Defender from Fulham could be okay. No, it's Sessegnon. I'm just going to straight up reject. My defense was already pretty good anyway, but you get the picture. If you download Club and join my league, you'll be in for the chance of a Premier League jersey. I will be doing the giveaway and announce the winner over on my X profile on Saturday after the deadline. It will just be obviously one person, and if you're already in the league and you've already downloaded Club, you'll be automatically entered. So yeah, download Club, join my league, and hopefully win a jersey. I am going to keep captaincy short today because most people will just captain Mohamed Salah, and I really don't blame them. He's got the highest projected points on this list, almost the highest projected goals, and the most likely to get 1+ goal according to SpreadX. And for me, he is the best captain. So I think if you have Salah, I can understand, just like sometimes we get decision fatigue in FPL. There are so many things to think about. This might just be one of those things where it's like, oh, just captain Salah. He's the best FPL asset of all time. He's on penalties. Minutes are fantastic. Fitness is always really good. And as much as Burnley aren't a terrible defence, they're certainly sort of bottom 5 or 6 defences in the Premier League, I would imagine, this season. So yeah, Salah is the obvious captain. Haaland is a fantastic captain, though. So far this season, he is leagues ahead of anyone else in terms of goal threat. He's accumulated 3.88 XG so far this season. The next closest to Haaland at 3.88 is actually Ismail Sarr with 2. So Haaland has almost double the closest to him in terms of XG. He's just been, and that's in an underperforming, pretty poor looking Man City attack. Like, they've not looked fully functioning after that Wolves game, but he just hogs and accumulates big chances because of the positions he picks up. And 5 goals and 2 assists in a single game in the international break. I don't care who the opposition is. That is incredibly impressive. I really do not mind having only Haaland this week and going for captaincy as well. You can see, according to SpreadX, he's got higher projected goals and a higher projected chance of getting 1+ goal as well. So I just look at it and I just think there isn't that much between Salah and Haaland for me this week. But due to him being a midfielder, due to the slightly easier fixture, I do slightly prefer Mohamed Salah. But yeah, either of them. After that, I wouldn't say it feels like overthinking, but I think the rest of the options are quite a bit of a drop down beyond Salah and Haaland. So the only way for me I would consider going against Salah or Haaland is if you don't own either of them, or you just play the game in a way where you like taking risks with captaincy. I think if that's you, you've got sort of 3 directions for me. You go for Gyökeres, because I think, again, Arsenal look like they should score goals in this game, especially with Ange taking over. He's on penalties. Again, the number 9 for a very good team is basically the reasoning behind it. So I like that as an option. You go for Jean-Philippe Mateta because regardless of Sarr being out and Sunderland being decent, he's still a penalty taker with a good fixture at home. Or you just go for another Liverpool attacker. So Ekitike, Gakpo, Wirtz. I would probably order them like that. Ekatike, Gakpo, Verts. Ekatike for me so far, and the data kind of supports it, he's looked the most likely to score goals. He's been the most likely for me to get multiple returns, as much as Gakpo has had many more returns than Florian Wirtz. If you actually look at the data, Gakpo hasn't been that impressive. Again, the 2 assists that he got in the same game were just 3-yard passes right. That was it. It was just a simple pass. And as much as his overall performance has probably been better than Wirtz, from an FPL perspective, I've not seen that much that makes me like, oh, desperately have to go out there and buy him. I do think Ekatike and Gakpo both start. Therefore, I would be pretty comfortable captaining both. The only thing that puts me off the 2 of them is that I do think Isak comes on in this game, and you would imagine he could come on for Florian Wirtz, but you'd imagine he comes on for one of Gakpo or Ekatike. And if that's the case, they could be getting somewhere like 60, 65 mins. So yeah, for me, it's Salah or Haaland. I think Salah's probably slightly better option, but I like Haaland. If not, probably Gyökeres, Mateta, or another Liverpool attacker. Let me know if you're backing against the Egyptian King. So guys, I did discuss this in my Gameweek 4 complete guide video, so I don't want to go back through it in too much detail, but just my updated thoughts as it has changed a little bit. And obviously, the potential injury to Iliman Ndiaye and the confirmation that Sarr is out does change my thinking a little bit. I still feel like if you're replacing Sarr this week and you have the money in the bank to get to Semenyo, just buy Semenyo. He, for me, is the standout option. He's shown really good goal threat this season. As I say, eye test-wise, he's taken the step up. He's got the fixtures. I don't see what else more you would want from an asset other than maybe penalties, but most of the players on this list here don't have penalties other than, I think, just Paquetá, maybe Enzo Fernandez, who's a little bit lower down. But yeah, for me, Semenyo's the best. After that, I've put Xavi Simons ahead of Kudus. The thought process behind Kudus being ahead of Xavi Simons is that he's just nailed on right now. Like, Xavi Simons, I think, will come into the 11, but we don't know. But the more I think about it, I just see Xavi Simons coming straight into that 11. And once he's in the 11, I think he stays there. And at that point, because I think he'll be much more central and also taking set pieces, I do think Xavi Simons will be better than Kudus. So those are 2 and 3. The fixtures are really nice overall for Spurs. I've actually bumped Paquetá up to 4th. 5.9 million is a really nice price. The penalties and some set pieces, I think, but the penalties are really nice too. When I look at the other options in and around this price, no one stands out as being that exceptional other than Semenyo. Even Simons and Kudus, there are reasons that you could look elsewhere. So why not pick a player with great minutes and pens? Like, it's just a good player to own. I will say, Paquetá's long-term fixtures are really decent. The short-term, not massively. So if you're planning a wildcard soon-ish, let's say around 7 or 8, then I probably wouldn't buy a Paquetá. I'd wait until my wildcard. But if you're looking to wildcard later, or you've already used it, or you're on a wildcard, I think I would have him up there as one of the better options at his price. I've got Morgan Rogers in 5th, ahead of Jack Grealish and Dewsbury Hall, which some people will hate. I don't write off an asset after 3 weeks, and for me, Morgan Rogers is a fantastic asset. Villa haven't been very good, but I do think they turn that around soon. So I still don't mind Morgan Rogers as a buy. Grealish and Dewsbury Hall, obviously really good options too. The fixtures aren't perfect. If you're free hitting in 6, which is when Everton play West Ham, do not buy an Everton midfielder because that's their best fixture. Just free hit them in for that week. So work out if you're going to free hit in 6 or not. If you're not free hitting in 6, I actually really don't mind Grealish and Dewsbury Hall. I've snuck Josh King in there as the 8th and the final one that is on this sort of ranking list. The reason he's in there is price. If I'm looking at what players offer for their price and looking at value, King has to be up there as one of the better options. 4.5 for a starting midfielder for a decent team with Leeds at home this week. And if not for a dodgy decision, he should have already had his goal, and I think that goal will be coming. I really don't mind Josh King as an option. Other options that aren't on this list that I would at least consider, Enzo Fernandez and Neto. You could always look for a cheaper route into that Chelsea attack. Matoma. I think if Matoma had better fixtures, he'd be like 2nd for me. His minutes are always really strong, and I just really rate him, and I rate Fabian Hertz, and I think Brighton will have a super strong season. So, as we've seen even last week, they were really highly impressive. So, if Matoma had better fixtures, he'd be on there, but the fixtures are so rough for me overall that I'd probably look elsewhere. Elliott. I said Morgan Rogers is on there. If Elliott gets a starting position in the 11, which you imagine he will, and I think he's 5.4 million if I'm not mistaken, then arguably for 1.6 million, if he can nail down that spot every week, and that's the only slight concern, we don't know that he will, he's probably better value than Morgan Rogers. I've got Brian Mbeumo on the list as well. Maybe a little bit Man United bias. I like the fact he takes set pieces. I like the fact that on the counter, he's so dangerous. So in the next 2 games against trickier teams, Mbeumo should still have some joy. I just really like him, and I think he's got good goal threat. I think he's a fantastic finisher as well. I just think he will tick along quite nicely, but maybe for that price, I'd look elsewhere. Oscar Bob started the first 3 games of the season. I never know with Manchester City assets. I've got Reinders on this list as well. Reinders feels safer for minutes. Bob does feel like he's got a slightly higher upside. Again, I would just look elsewhere. Ruta, if he's starting as the 9 for Brighton, still could take penalties, by the way. I wouldn't be absolutely sure that he's completely off them. And then Dango, I think, is a really nice option as well, but maybe not the best week to bring him in. And Declan Rice, taking set pieces, showing some attacking threat. From Game Week 7 onwards, I love Arsenal's fixtures. So yeah, there are lots of players to consider. For me, though, if you've got the money, go for Semenyo. If not, I'd probably go Kudus or Simmons if you have the money for that. Paquetá is a nice cheap option along with Dewsbury Hall or King. There are other options outside of that. If you're replacing Sarr or looking to bring in a player this week, let me know who you're going for. So guys, I released a video earlier on in the week looking at a Game Week 4 free hit and a Game Week 4 wildcard draft, so I didn't want to go through it in an entire extra video once again, but I thought it's worth at least including a little section at the end to go through what my updated drafts would be. Let's start with a free hit. I've actually gone and put Haaland and Salah in there. I think I would want the pair of them, and I think you can build a very good free hit draft with the pair of them in. Now, if you dropped one of them, obviously not only does the defense become stronger, but you can also squeeze in a Gyökeres and an Ekitike, players like that aren't in here. The midfield in general could get a little bit stronger too. But when I look at it, my defense in this free hit draft I'm about to read out to you already looks pretty good. I've got Salah and Haaland. I've got a lot of the other assets I'd want. Really, all I'm sacrificing, I think, is basically Gyökeres. That's the one player that, and maybe Ekitike, that I just wasn't able to squeeze in as a result. So it's a 4-4-2. The goalkeeper is Raya. The back four is Munoz, Livramento. Again, I spoke about the reasons for Livramento earlier on in the video. Virgil van Dijk, and then Anderson at the back, the 4.5 Fulham defender. Obviously, feels a bit weird starting in a 4 at the back on a free hit with a 4.5 defender. But Fulham had a pretty good chance for a clean sheet when we looked at the market odds. He's good for DEFCON. He's got some attacking threat, and it facilitates a lot elsewhere. I've also got another 4.5 million Fulham asset in the midfield. So yes, you'd have to start with 2 cheap assets, but they look good for this week. So I've got King in the starting 11, Gakpo, Semenyo, Salah captain, and then a front 2 of Erling Haaland and Jean-Philippe Mateta. Now, where could you change this? Drop one of Salah or Haaland, go to Gyökeres as well. You'd probably drop Haaland, right? You're not dropping Salah. So Haaland down to Gyökeres gives you 5 million. Spread that around. Maybe still play a 4 at the back if you want to, but upgrade to Cucurella rather than Anderson. Upgrade King if you want to. But I feel like that's a really strong free hit while still having Salah and Haaland in, so I like it. In terms of the wild card, I don't know that I can sit here and pick a wild card with both of them, because whilst I say that's not bad for a free hit, it's basically got no bench, and you're starting Anderson and King most weeks. I mean, it's got Dewsbury Hall on the bench, but you see what I mean? If I then look at a wildcard, I wouldn't want a wildcard with such a weak squad. So what I've done instead is I've gone for a Haaland-only draft, because I still like the idea, by the way, of going for Haaland and betting against Salah. I don't think it's as scary as some people are suggesting. Obviously, it's easy for me to sit here and say that, because I have Salah in my team, but I've just not been impressed so far. Maybe he suddenly turns it on and Salah looks fantastic again. But it's been about 6 or 7 months now that we've been saying, oh, Salah's not really been fully at it. So I don't mind going for a Haaland draft. And what I've also done is I've left 2.1 million in the bank in this draft, simply just to say, spend that way you want. Like, if you would rather go for Watkins rather than João Pedro, you can do that. If you'd rather go for, I don't even know what this is, like a Gibbs White rather than Paquetá, do that. So I've left that 2 million basically to say, if you want to spend it elsewhere, you can. If you like this draft and you go with something similar, what you can actually do is keep the money, and that will allow you to do Gyökeres to Isak with ease, or you could do João Pedro to Isak, and the way that you would fund that is downgrading Cody Gakpo a little bit. So in game it's 6, 7, 8, whenever Isak's strongly in the starting 11 and you want him, you have that money ready to go. Or it might be that you just use that, like I say, to upgrade a King or Paqueta. So the starting 11 is Raya in goal. I've then got Munoz, Cucurella, and Livramento as the defense. So very, very strong at the back, still with lots of money in the bank. The midfield is really cheap and weak. And I should know, I've got Ndiaye in here. I would still be tempted to pick him on a wild card. You could replace him with Dewsbury Hall in this team and have even more money, or a Grealish, or go elsewhere. But I just really rate him. And on a wild card, you've got bench cover this week to potentially come on instead. So the midfield 4 is King, Semenyo, Gakpo, and Ndiaye, with Paquetá on the bench. And then the front 3 is Haaland, Gyökeres, and João Pedro. The reason that João Pedro is in the wild card but not the free hit is because if his minutes are reduced, you could potentially bet against him for 1 week, but moving forward, you expect him to get back into the 11. So hopefully those drafts help. Obviously on the bench, like I said, I've got Paquetá and Senesi in that wildcard draft. I think both of these are strong. I think it's a really good week to play a chip. So if you're looking at your team this week, You've picked up lots of injuries. You're not happy with it. I don't mind either of these. Obviously, the way that you decide whether you free hit or wildcard is, are you happy with your team longer term? If you came back to the same team in Game Week 5 that you have now, would it look a bit better? Or do you still have all of the issues? If you still have issues and you've got players that are out for a little while, like an Ismail Sarr, like a Strand Larsen, then you probably just need to play the wildcard instead of the free hit. Let me know what you think of those two drafts, and if you're playing a chip, how much it differs from what you've currently got. So guys, there we have it. That is my Game Week 4 deadline decisions video. Hopefully you did enjoy, and if you did, please do smash that like button. And if you've got to this point of the video and you're not yet subscribed, what are you doing? Please do consider subscribing. If you want to see what I'm doing with my team, it's not changed much from this morning where I uploaded a team selection video. So feel free, after you've watched this, at the end it will be linked. Go and watch that team selection video and see what I'm doing with my team. Until next time, thank you very much. Bye-bye.